welcome to everybody. Many of you I know, but there's some out-of-towners here I know from Heartland and other places, so thank you for coming. We do have a few announcements. First, our next meeting will be Sunday, April 27th at the Meriden Library. Steve Taylor will be talking about the 1953 Grantham Mountain Fire. For those of you who were alive in the Upper Valley then, I'm sure you remember it, but it was an enormous fire that required firefighters from all over the Upper Valley and even soldiers from Fort Devens who came to fight it, which it took 3 weeks to contain it. And Steve was a very young man at the time, but he helped fight the fire, and he's going to be telling stories about that. On May 10th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have our annual meeting, which will be at the clubhouse, and it will be followed by a tour of the Federal Brick House, kind of across the street and down below with the old general store, which is a beautiful Federal Brick House built around 1810, 1815. So we'll be having a house tour for that. Also, last June, the Historical Society published a book called Discovering Plainfield, which with drawings by Emily Zay. It's designed for middle schoolers, but really of interest to everyone. And we have copies on the back table for sale. It's really a fun book, and we will be giving free copies of that book to all the 3rd and 4th graders because this is the year they study local history and do their local field trips. In addition to that, we are going to be sponsoring a after-school art program for middle schoolers. I want to buy one. Weeks and go for 6 weeks, where Emily will teach these kids how to draw in a cartoon, kind of a cartoon fashion. I think she calls them zines. I don't know what, I don't even know. But anyway, they're going to be going around to historic sites on both sides of town and doing drawings and then putting them together in books, and there will be an exhibit at the end at the Meriden Library. So those are 2 things we've been involved in. And I also wanted to remind everyone, particularly people from Plainfield, that our Plainfield genealogy, which represents decades of work by many people going back to Vernon Hood, who was their town historian and town clerk for many years, through Kay McClay, and more recently Desmond Hudson, is now available on a program on a specific computer in the basement of the Philip Reed Library. And for any of you who have roots in Plainfield, you really ought to stop by and take a look. There's an enormous amount of information. We published the genealogy about 20 years ago, but since then, Des Hudson has added probably twice as much information, their maps, their deeds, there's all kinds of stuff. So I would encourage you next time you're at the library to just go down and take a peek and see what it says about people you may know and people in your own families. So now I'd like to introduce Annette Spaulding. I'm going to read this, Annette.
Oh, no, you can make it brief.
Okay, no, I'm going to, but anyway, Annette is a master scuba diver with more than 35 years of diving on archaeological and historical searches around the world. She's been diving in 43 countries and 146 islands on many searches related to historic aircraft, shipwrecks, and missing people. She was also instrumental in the discovery of a one-of-a-kind aircraft in the remote Charon Lake in Manitoba, Canada, that was featured on National Geographic. She's also participated in the search for the missing Learjet that disappeared over New Hampshire. She averages 117 dives a year, and her favorite place to dive is in the Connecticut River. She's a dedicated trustee of the Connecticut River Conservancy. She's witnessed a total reversal of the health of the Connecticut River, which has improved its visibility. As a member of the underwater rescue team, she's been a member of an underwater rescue team locally for more than 35 years. And she's also very active in a number of historical societies. So without further ado, Annette Spaulding.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jane.
I'll turn off the overhead lights. I'll go to the back and turn off the overhead lights.
Oh, thank you. I'm not used to having a microphone, and because I walk around everywhere. So I'm going to walk around a little bit like this. But I want to thank everyone for coming today and your interest in history. I love what I do because there just is, every dive I make, especially now that the river has cleaned up so much, it is a treasure trove of history. Everything from coming up, with our river being 410 miles long, everything coming all the way from Long Island Sound, the early fur traders, the very first people, the Native American culture. It's just amazing what we have in this river. And so it is cleaned up so much. I used to only be able to see maybe 5 inches, but now I can see 20 to 30 feet, not right after a rainstorm, of course, and definitely not right after that July 23 storm, but it's really beautiful. So Jay is my tech person, and he's a big help to me. And the good thing about this is I saved this presentation. Jay and I made this presentation specifically for you tonight, or this afternoon. No one else has seen this yet. And many times I do many, many presentations, and they'll ask about the petroglyphs and other things I found. But tonight, or today, I'm going to tell a story about what happened in one day at a place I had never been before, Sumner Falls. It was a few years ago, and what an experience one day could make in my life, diving. And not only that, now I've been there numerous times, and I just met a gentleman a few minutes ago here from your community that was on the dive team, and we had a good little chat, and we'll have to chat more. So with that, I would like to just, Jake arranged for me to have this nice little pointer. So anyway, yeah, it's new to me to have this. Wait, do I print it here? Wait 1 second. It could be me. Hold on a second. No, it's me. I'm sure it's me. Let's see. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay, so Sumner Falls. Many of you probably do not know. Most of you have probably been there, but I had never been there. And since the day I'm going to tell you about, I've learned a lot about Sumner Falls. And so where I was doing most of this work was, okay, it'll take me just a minute, you guys. Just don't worry. This is a new thing for me. And I'm just practicing. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if any of you have ever been to Sumner Falls, boating, canoeing, fishing, whatever, you probably know that there's a very difficult way to find the entrance to the road to get in. And so it's up here. This is where everyone puts their kayaks in and boats. And then all along here, it's amazing. All that ledge, totally amazing. And so we're going to be talking about my dives that one day I went from here, all along here, all the way up here. And what I found was unbelievable. So here we go. Whoops. Here we go, all right. Okay, so anyway, when you do come down that ramp to put your boats in, this is the area right here. This is the location of the famous Sumner Falls. More information about it later, but there was a mill here in 1858. Very famous mill, very different type of invention for cutting logs. But anyway, I'm in Heartland, Sumner Falls, Connecticut River, and it's really kind of amazing. I'm just getting ready to do a dive, and there's absolutely nobody around here. It's great. I've been diving with bass, 7, 9 pounds. It's amazing. There's eagles. Actually, there's one right over there. Wait. I don't think you can see it, but there was a lot of them, actually. Last night, 6 blue heron. I did 2 dives back to back last night, 4.5 hours underwater. And we covered some amazing tools from the early 1800s that we used in the mill. I've turned them over to the Historical Society. Okay, so what happened was, this is another picture of the falls, and I was diving directly under those wonderful falls, and most of my diving that I did It was kind of interesting what I was seeing under there. And when you're under those falls, the water's bubbling like crazy, and it's, a little bit swirly, but I love diving under waterfalls. Okay, I'm going to get this right. This is my new little tool, and it's great. Okay, so it all started with a day I got a call, and it was amazing. This man called me. He was a fisherman, and he got my number from somewhere and told me he was at Sumner Falls. He was kayaking. His kayak tipped over, and he had about $1,200 worth of fishing tackle, and some of it was very sentimental to him. So I told him I would meet him there. It just so happened I could, and he also had another outfit, a jacket with money in it. So off I went. And I live in Rockingham, Vermont, so it's about 45 minutes there. But I've never been there before. So I didn't even know I had the right entrance on this dirt road. I'm driving down the dirt road, and here I am. I get to Sumner Falls, and he was there waiting for me and show me where he lost everything. So I gear up, all ready to go, thinking it would be relatively easy. But what happened was I started finding underwater. Jay, did I miss a video?
That's all right, I got it.
Oh, right there? Okay. I have a video of what happened underwater. And this was amazing to me because I had my metal detector thinking I would need it to find some of these things he lost if it was really silty. So I went prepared. I had my metal detector. I'm going into the cove, and it's going off like I have a car under me. I thought it was malfunctioning. Something was wrong with it. But that was not the case at all. What happened was 7, 8 inches down in the gravel, I started finding all these huge tools. Watch. Oh yeah, these guys were right there waiting for me to feed them because I was turning over stones. And they wanted to see what I was doing. And you'll see crayfish. So, these are nice little distractions while I'm looking for these tools. But I started finding them. And as I'm moving everything, this was not under the silt. This was wedged in between stone. But those bass, they love it because they think of me as one big fish. And they think of me as one big fish feeding them crayfish. So I found these pieces at first that were wedged in, trying to figure out, wow, these look really old. What are these from? But then under the silt, I started finding so many pieces under 7, 8 inches of gravel. I don't know anything about Sumner Falls. I knew the name of Sumner Falls. I knew no history of Sumner Falls. I do now with over 100 hours of research, including your library here. So there's these really neat underwater. When you see the ledges there, you think, oh yeah, it goes out, maybe drops straight down like it does in Bellows Falls. It doesn't. It's like layers. It's like steps. And it goes down like from the top to like 34 feet deep. And they're like all these steps and all these ledges. And it's so amazing. It is a beautiful place. It's so different. Every place I dive is different, but this is really, really nice. And as you can see, the nice gravel on the bottom, it's not really silty at all. Just the top, when you first go in the cove to put your boat in or whatever, it's silty, maybe 1 to 2 inches, but under that, it's beautiful gravel and rock. So here I am, getting all these tools. I had to come up, see where I was finding all this stuff, and I put it up on the shore, not the shore, but up on the rock to go back and get it. So I kept finding things and finding things. That's my fin because I'm on my hands and knees and I'm digging like crazy. And those bass love that. So that is the video of what I first started seeing. And I did not know anything about this. Jay, do I just advance?
What time of year was that, Annette?
What was that?
What time of year was that?
It was September. And, okay, so these of things right here. And I'll do answers. I forgot to tell you that, but I'll answer your questions after my presentation. But that's good that you brought that up. It was September. So I found binoculars, I found cameras, I found all kinds of things. But the biggest thing I started finding were all these strange looking logging equipment, pipe poles, PVs, which I'm used to seeing those down in the Bellows Falls area. It's loaded with them, but it was loaded with them here. I'm thinking, how did they ever get logs over this massive amount of stone? Well, I found that out too, but I did not know anything at the time. So these chains right here, I had to have someone come and help me. Some of these chains were like really long, like 20 feet long, and they weighed a ton. I couldn't move them. We used lift bags and we brought them into the shore. I did that the day after because the first day I did 2 dives, one in the morning, 2 hours, or not morning, late morning for 2 hours, and then I went back in again for another 2.5 hours. I was underwater for 4.5 hours and I couldn't believe it. I went back the next day and did the same thing the next day. I was so amazed. So these chains were all part of the logging that did happen here. I did not know at the time. It was fascinating. And there were all kinds of tools, and this thing here had, I don't know what this was, but it had there were a lot of them with a loop here, and they kind of tapered down to more like a point. All these different things, I did not know what they were. And I found tons of PVs. And as I said, I brought one of the pipe poles over there. Is there a feedback? Do you hear okay, great, thank you. So then I was lining these things up. I would, drag across the bottom because all that extra weight, I couldn't come up with all that. So I brought up every piece of metal because I thought this must be historic or something with all these tools, still not knowing where I was or anything about where I was. I did find some of his fishing tackle and things. I didn't find everything. But to be honest with you, I was so intrigued by this history. I should have been paying more attention to his jacket floating down the river, which I did find that because I got caught on something, thank God. Anyway, here we go. So I had this day. I find all this. I find most of his things. He was happy with what I found. I found about $800 to $900 worth of stuff out of the $1,200. So he was happy. But I couldn't wait to start research. I went home. I started jamming about the history of Plainfield, and I love this town. I love the history of St. Gaudens, of the Cornish Gallery, and the Cornish colonies, and who was there. I just love history. But this really fascinated me because, of course, the river, most of the river's owned by you here, but I love both sides of the river, and I do presentations all the time on both sides. So I go home and I start reading about why is this called Sumner Falls. I was so shocked. This guy is born in 1779 to 1869, right? 97 years old he died in 1869. I mean, Civil War, all the things he saw. And then I find out that he was just totally amazing. He owned large tracts of land up north, had crews to cut trees, bringing them down the log drives over Sumner Falls. But in between, in that map I showed you earlier, you can see how there's openings through some of it. And he brought those logs and he created a mill. This guy was amazing. He built mills, he built roads, he built buildings. I mean, this man in this community, what a hero this guy was. I mean, and then it talked about the mill, and several times the bridges were washed out by the freshets of the roads, and it was amazing. And so the mill that he had on Sumner Falls, actually, instead of bringing the whole logs down, he selected logs and he controlled those logs naturally by these big, giant linked chains. And some of them, I believe, is what I showed you. But I also have some over on the table. They're big, big, heavy links that weigh like 7 pounds each. And he would chain and link them across to control them. And then when he was ready to release them, he would. But he cut a lot of them right there on a mill across these ledges. It's amazing. So anyway, you probably know all this, but I didn't, and it was really, really exciting. So then, whoa, okay, oh God, Jay warned me of this. Jay, you were a good teacher, but you know what? I couldn't see the button in the dark. Okay, here we go. So I hope. Anyway, so on the river, as you know, you probably heard about the tragedy and how bad it was. It was really, really bad, really dangerous, dangerous work. Talk about like dynamiting these things and having logs flying, but also try to balance with these leather boots with spikes in them across these rocks, I mean, not rocks, logs, and then if they open up and you fall through or you lose your PV or, any of your equipment, you're in trouble because they couldn't replace them easily. And unfortunately, I did find a couple of boots wedged in the rocks, and they were leather, and leather really lasts a long time underwater with the spikes on them, and they would not have been throwing away boots back then, right? So I don't know whose boots they were, but the tragedy in my mind, just thinking about what these guys did. So anyway, it was hard work, and then along with this hard work, they had, you'll see over on the side there, but they had these various types of pieces of equipment for PVs. I have one of these here today that I found in there. I found tons of the cant hooks. Oh my God. I probably found 25 or 30 of those. And I found them on the north side and the south side. So there's a lot going on there. So anyway, I have, this is part of one of them. The stick was broken off and was kind of rotted. I found all this at Sumner Falls. And every time I find something and I don't know what it is, I didn't know a lot about these, but I didn't know a lot about other things. These right here are Native American needles made of bone. These were underneath a silt, and they worked them to have a sharp point on them. And everything I find, I start doing research on. An old inkwell. That is not with me. It's something else I found. It's a mastodon tooth I found in Florida. But this here, the picture has it in it though, sorry. And these here, these insulators that we use at the railroad, I found a lot of those at Bellows Falls, but I did find some here too. So these are just a few of the things I found. And today, whoops, Jay, I know, I'm doing terrible. Okay, so with these tragedies, the pikemen, of course, we had these pictures Jay and I came up with to show you. And by the way, if you have a lot of interest in logging, there's a gentleman I know, his name was Bill Gove. He wrote an incredible book on the logging history of the Connecticut River. It talks a good amount of, really a large amount of time I spent reading, he has a big section on Sumner Falls. He also has a section on the very tragic accident. As you know, when you drive down the dirt road on the left-hand side, before you get to the entry to put your boats in and such, you come across these nice hosta and a fence, and this is a gravestone right on the river. The gravestone is of this young boy, 19 years old, from Maine, and he was in the log drives, and he died in 1895. And that was after Sumner died. He must have been, maybe, I don't know what came after that. I know it was a big company in Maine that came in after Sumner. But anyway, they notified his family, and they didn't come and get him, his body. And the people that he worked with buried him right here. And that's a stone. And that's a Sumner Falls. So on the falls itself, there's all these big spikes where they used to attach the chains to. Those are still there. But that's all. The rest is underwater. And from my research, everyone thought, during this bad fish-shattered storm, that in flood, that they washed down the river. They're too heavy to wash down the river. They get deeper and deeper and deeper. I wish it was gold I found, but it wasn't. It was tools from the 1800s from his wonderful, amazing invention. So let's see here. This is not, it's me because I can't see it in the dark. Okay, so I did that already. and the peavies and that. So you can see it again. Sorry about that. And there's all these different, different tongs and all kinds of different instruments that they made. And I don't even know how they made them all, really. It's all hand-forged steel, everything I was finding. And then this is another piece here, this just, it was broken off here. But, they had all kinds of various types of hooks for grasping onto logs. It was just amazing how they did this. So what else happened was, this is all in one day, mind you, all in one day. 2 hours the first hour, I'm finding all these things underwater, dragging them to the shore, putting them on the shore. Then I go back out, and I'm looking for more and more. I'm seeing all kinds of things. I start finding Native American items. Native Americans fished a lot on this area. I found pottery. It's rare to find pottery, and I found it, and it was wedged in between rocks that it, protected from the current because it got down in crevices and such. But I started finding so many things, and doing so many dives. I looked for off and on for 30 years to find the petroglyph site down in the West River, the confluence of the West and Connecticut rivers, and I did find that. It was Indian Rock, it was called. It had 9 petroglyphs on it. There were 5 eagles, a person, a wolf, and what appeared to be 2 eels, or I don't know if they were lampreys or snakes. Anyway, I found those, but I found a lot of different Native American artifacts over the years. And I'm so sorry, I have a good rapport with the Native Americans because they know I respect their culture, and I've donated so many things to them that I found. I keep a few pieces for presentations. So I started finding these, and then I was finding, various arrowheads and other things. And then I found where the falls were in a deep hole. And I brought some today because these were weights that they used for nets. And I'm like, they didn't have lead. But I found out in my research, I found in a couple places that, traders and things like that would trade with the Native Americans for certain things, and that they did use some of these weights. I have also found the carved ones and the stone ones that they would use around these nets that they would trap the fish in. And I brought, I think, 7 of these today. So that was really amazing to me. And we're going to show some video here of what else I saw. That noise you hear, it's the waterfall. It's over my head. I'm directly under it. And you know what? I wasn't the only one that liked the waterfall. Wait till you see this. Just keep looking. I'm looking for tools. Well, that crayfish looked really nice to my little fan club that showed up. And I could feed them right out of my hands too. How do fish swallow a whole crayfish like that? It's amazing. The bass swallow them whole. And you can still see them, like the claws going inside their body, for God's sakes. These guys became my best friends. Every time I was diving, they'd show up. And they'd look at me like, okay, uncover more. That one's too big to swallow. It's so funny. They're so funny. They're so personable. So I'm under the waterfalls. I'm looking at these beautiful fish, nice and healthy, crayfish, looking for tools, distracted by the bass. And then I'm always looking down. I found clay pipes. I found all kinds of things wedged. And you can see, Bellows Falls has these amazing whirlpools and potholes, and they're carved out from so many years of swirling around. And you have all these little, inside these little pockets underwater, there's so many things that I find. So many of the tools, so many things, Native American artifacts, but the fish were so amazing to me. And so people, now I'm going down this ledge, and as I was saying, you think that it's just maybe drops straight down, like the ones do in Bellows Falls under the Vilas Bridge, but it doesn't. It is not like that. It starts out like stairs, and it goes down gradually down to 34 feet deep. And there's so many incredible things. As you can see, I'm going deeper right now. And if you look, in a second, you'll see, this is fisherman's heaven, really. I mean, they were, everywhere. And they were waiting for me to feed them. However, there's certain species. I mean, look at how close he is to my mask. It's like, okay, feed me. I want another crayfish. But what happened was there's certain types of species of fish that's very rare for me to be able to videotape. Well, not in this case, because underneath that waterfall, all the water is churning up. You've got oxygen coming in, and you have a lot of bait going over, all kinds of things that fish like to eat. So they're all lined up underneath this waterfall, and I'm looking, I turn around because my head was down, but then I turn around and I start looking at what's in back of me for fish life. Oh my goodness, I had trout, brown trout, rainbow trout, bass, and walleye, tons of walleye. And they just love this, and they love that action of the waterfall. I love diving under the waterfall. So all of a sudden, there's the walleye, and there were a lot of walleye. There was this one hole under the, it was about 32 feet deep, and these guys, this is rare that I can film them because they're very skittish underwater for divers. They're not social like the bass. It's also very difficult to get the trout. But these guys were like, okay, they were like posing for me, like, okay, she needs footage for this. I don't know. But anyway, this was fabulous for me to see. And you could see like all the different types of, from the years of the water beating across it, swirling around. And there's beautiful stones and rocks, and there's just so much there. Native American history, fish, the beauty, the water's cleaned up in the river. I love this place. This is a beautiful place with amazing history. So also, I started finding old, antique lures and things that were wedged, and they were wedged inside of the rocks that I was just showing you, which was kind of interesting, all the way down to 34 feet deep. And I found like all kinds of things. Like I always have to carry a knife because back then, especially, I wrapped it all up in a little pile, but it's not uncommon to get caught, like your fins around the straps, to get caught in cable and old types of line where it's not easy to just like move it away and have it break off. It is not easy at all. So a lot of times I get tangled in this stuff. So I have to take my knife that I carry, 2 of them, one on my chest and one on my leg, and cut myself out of these. It's even worse in the ocean, but those are bad. But I do come across very dangerous situations like this. I mean, I'm so used to it now, I just get ready and cut it, But I just found all this. So then I decided the next day when I went to dive again, I was so intrigued by this, and I heard, looking at my map, that it was 6 miles or so from there to like Harpoon Brewery and that wonderful place, Great River Outfitters. That they are really nice people. You would not believe what happened when I was going down that river later, when there was a bad tornado that people were killed across under a tent. And I was on the river that day with my granddaughter. And the owner of that place, Craig, he drove his truck through cornfields. He knew we were going down the river, and he got there and helped us. And just as he did, a tree snapped and came right down. Anyway, it's a different story, but he was wonderful. So I decided to kayak down this river, And it was so beautiful. You come around the bend and you're looking at Mount Scottney. And the great thing is motorboats cannot get up there, that 6-mile stretch. It's too shallow. There's rock formations sticking out of the water. It's crystal clear. It is so beautiful. So, I'm looking at Sumner Falls, that history. I'm thinking of the fishing. I'm looking at the Native American history. It was amazing. And that view was just amazing. And then I donated all the chains and things that I found to the Heartland Historical Society. This year when I go back and find more, I'll come over here and give you guys some too, okay? Because you both should have them on both sides. This is, I found them, on the Vermont side more, but this history is for both of you. And so I will turn over some of the things that I find this year. I'll turn them all over. I'll give them to your side. How's that? And so the next day, I didn't have time. I was in my wetsuit, and I had to stop very quickly. So I hid what I found in boxes behind these, and I called and left a message that I hid them there, all wrapped up in tarps. So I'm not sure how long they were there, but I wrapped them up good with water. So I want to tell you what else happened that day. First day, 4.5 hours underwater. This is unbelievable. I'm going to tell you quickly, but can somebody tell me what time it is?
3:39.
3:39? Wait. 3:39 already?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'll tell you the story, and then I'll do questions and answers. You've got to hear this. I'm on the underwater rescue team. So is this gentleman. And we have another man here, Matt, who is on the rescue team from Brattleboro. I'm still on the rescue team. We're dispatched out of Key Mutual Aid. We cover a lot of the river, both sides. But this is what happened. I am there coming out from that day, 4.5 hours underwater. I'm in my wetsuit. I take off my tank, I put it in the back. And for the first time, I see people, this really nice couple, husband and wife. They show up. And they are telling me about the eagles and everything. And I have a pager on me all the time. Not underwater, but on land I do. And so he's telling me about the eagles. And all of a sudden, my pager goes off. Like, it's loud when I get a call. So I'm like, oh my God. I said, excuse me, let me just listen to this. I'm a rescue team. And it says that there is a kayaker. It's an emergency to respond on the other side of the river, where the ferry crossing is by Wethersfield Bow. So here I am in my wetsuit, just take my tank off. Thank God I had another tank with me, third tank. And I'm listening, I'm like, oh my God, this just happened. He is reporting, he's a kayaker, he's reporting that the boat ramp there, he saw a vehicle, a black vehicle, roll down the boat ramp and into the water. And when he got there, he could see all the bubbles, coming out, but they responded immediately. There were the police, state police, local police, fire department, and I was the first diver on site. And I said, we always have to wait to two of us to go, but this is shallow right there. And I've been underwater for, 4.5 hours. I'm really familiar. I've dove here before. I said, please, can I just go snorkeling across the top? And I can look down just to see if I could help someone. So I'm out there. Bubbles are coming up. I don't see anyone, but it was kind of murky because when it went down, it kicked up a lot of mud and stuff. So then my dive team member, Brian, he showed up. He get up quick. He comes out with me. This is like after diving for 4.5 hours at Sumner Falls, right? So I couldn't believe this happened. So that's why I was the first one on site, because I was the closest. So anyway, Brian comes, the two of us go out. We look at the car. No one's in the car, but I see all this Victoria's Secret lingerie and stuff floating around the back of the car. I'm like, what the heck is this? And it was a Lexus, right? A black Lexus. I'm like, wow. But I'm shining my light in, and it looked like there was something underneath the gas pedal. There was. Someone purposely put a block under it and let it go at the top of the ramp, and it went down and underwater. We still searched to make sure, is there a person here? We're doing rope searches and circular searches, and we couldn't find anyone. And I was really concerned because one of the doors was open. There wasn't a real current there, but there was a little, and I thought maybe they went beyond. So I came up from the bottom with Brian, and the police are yelling to us, come in, come back now. So we go in, and I don't know what's wrong. And they said, you could stop searching. We found out what happened. There was a woman who was dating a guy. And she came home and found her boyfriend doing other things with another woman. And she got mad and she stole his car. And she drove it there and she let it go. So I went from tools, history, Sumner Falls, fish, Native American history, all these wonderful things, and a rescue I didn't have to rescue except for the car. And what a story. What a way to end my day that started at Sumner Falls. I've done over 100 hours of research now. I do know so much more, and I love that place, and I love your library. I had to come and do some research. You have a great resource here. Everything on this side. I love this place. It's great. And I can't wait. I'm going to be back there very soon, and whatever I find, I'll bring it over to you guys. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention. That was my one day at Sumner Falls. I never knew anything about, but I do now. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll answer some questions for that. I don't know how to shut this, so, all right, so, oh, wait, now I can see this better. I wouldn't have even messed up. Sorry about that. All right, so does anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to answer a few for maybe 4 or 5 questions if you have it. If not, I'm going to go over at this table, and if you have any questions about any of those things I found, I do need your help, and I love this. When I do presentations and things I find underwater, and I don't know what they are, I ask for your help to let me know what I found. And I did bring something today that, one thing that I did not find here. Everything else I did. At the end of the table, you're going to see this round thing with a hook on it, and I sprayed this blue stuff on it to keep it from rusting, because I wasn't sure if it was something I shouldn't put, other preservative or whatever on, but I need to know more about it. I found this in the river, not at Sumner Falls. I thought it was a cannonball at first. I don't know what it is, but if anybody has any idea, would you let me know? All right, any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious, if you dived all over the world, what made you want to dive in this part of the Connecticut locally?
Okay, that's a good question. I have dove all over the world, and I loved what I did, and I still do, but my favorite place, I'm not joking, the history in this river is unbelievable. Like, I can go on a special place to look for a shipwreck, and I'm looking for a shipwreck. I could go and look for airplanes. But this river, every single dive I make for years on the underwater rescue team looking for people in zero visibility. And as you know, some of you know this, cold river revival. People that are underwater and they thought they drowned years ago, they can be revived if up to an hour and 40 minutes for a child and up to an hour for an adult. And so if the water's clean and the water's cold, you have a better chance. And if you're younger and healthy, you have a better chance. But where I'm going with this is that going from a visibility like this with a strong advocacy of the Connecticut River Conservancy and many other organizations that work with them, it is amazing to me that this visibility has changed. It is a treasure trove of history. I have not made one single dive and not found something historic. And it leads me to getting behind in my work because I'm back, researching. I've learned so much. I find fur traders things. Fort Dummer down in Brattleboro, Charlestown, Fort number 4. You wouldn't believe the things I find under there. And I end up donating it to the Historical Society. When I can't dive in the river because it's too bad, Spofford Lake, I'm doing a major thing there off and on. I'm looking for a steamboat that was built in the 1800s. I already found the anchor. I found the chain. I donated them to the Chesterfield Historical Society. We are support your historical societies. That's all I could say. We need to support them. So to answer the question, probably that when I started to dive, being on the dive team and seeing how it cleaned up so much and seeing what I was finding underwater, It's all undiscovered. It's like new. It's like it inspires young children, and they think that everything is doom and gloom and that there's nothing positive. I stress that it can be done with all of us working together. The reversal of that river and the health, by everybody working together to do that, and for them to feel that everything has not been found. There's exploration and discovery and excitement and exploring. And these guys are all so psyched when they do their presentations at schools and things. They all want to become divers. I get them at least snorkeling right off. But I love the river. The history is just, there's just so much. It would take me all day to tell you all these things I keep finding. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
When you were seeing those bass and those walleyes, did you notice any of them have a tag in their fin?
He asked if I saw if the walleye or the bass had a tag in their fin. Not at Sumner Falls, I haven't seen any tags, but I have seen a few in Westminster Station from a distance. I don't know, what are those tags for, sir?
Walleyes that are swimming by there in school, that first walleye.
Yes?
He's got a tag in his back fin.
He does? I'm going to have to watch that again. Wow, I don't know. See, I've learned something new again. That's why I love it.
Because I've tagged over 500 bass at Sumner's, and I never catch the same one with a tag, and I have walleye.
I'll try to help you, but I can only do it by photo. And I'll let you know. You just pointed out something that I did not know. That's amazing. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to be over there at the table. And thanks for coming in, you guys over there. If you have any questions, I'll answer yours first, okay? I'll be right there. So thank you so much again.